DeMeco Ryans. The most impressive year one turnaround that exists in the NFL. At least one of the best turnarounds the NFL has seen in 2023. This is Sports Guy talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about DeMeco Ryans leading a massive turnaround for the Texans as they are currently 8-6 on the season. The Texans have been awful for the last 3 seasons, but that culture has been changed in Houston as they are in position to make the NFL playoffs this season. Despite all the injuries the Texans have had to deal with in recent weeks, they are still in good position to make the NFL playoffs and possibly even winning the AFC South division. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. Will the Texans make the NFL playoffs this season? I believe it. You guys got to believe in the Houston Texans, and I know that I am going to believe in the Houston Texans. No CJ Stroud, no problem. No Dell, no problem. No Nico Collins, no problem. No Will Anderson, no problem. The Houston Texans have been littered with injuries in recent weeks, but it doesn't matter. Who cares who's playing at the quarterback position? I know CJ Stroud has been incredible for the Houston Texans, but you know what? DeMeco Ryans has been equally as incredible coaching up this squad of the Houston Texans because he has been able to help the Houston Texans overcome adversity in their roster, and they have continued to win games game in and game out. Yeah, have the Houston Texans lost some bad games? Absolutely. Losing to the Carolina Panthers, inexcusable. Losing to the New York Jets in blowout fashion, inexcusable. But despite those 2 horrible losses the Houston Texans had, they are still finding ways to win ball games, and CJ Stroud has played so well for the Houston Texans that you have to say the NFL Rookie of the Year award needs to be renamed the CJ Stroud Trophy because that's how good CJ Stroud has been playing. But hey, the whole thing is not just about CJ Stroud. It's about the coaching that is existing in Houston because DeMeco Ryans has turned around the defense of the Texans. He has been making leadership happen on the Texans as well. He has brought stability to the organization. You look at how he inserted Case Keenum into the starting lineup last week against the Tennessee Titans. A lot of people were confused why they didn't start Davis Mills, considering the fact that he was the backup to CJ Stroud all year. But DeMeco Ryans makes the bold decision to make the switch to Case Keenum in a must-win game against the Titans, and now he looks really smart because Case Keenum, despite throwing a pick 6, he came through with a key victory for the Houston Texans at Tennessee, where he made a game-winning drive, and the Texans ended up making a game-winning kick as time expired in overtime. Now the Houston Texans are 8-6 on the season, and they are staring outside the playoff picture right now, but they are just 1 game back from taking over the division because right now they are stuck in a 3-way tie for the AFC South division title. The Jaguars are 8-6, the Texans are 8-6, the Colts are 8-6. Also, the Houston Texans are stuck with a bunch of teams that are 8-6 in the AFC. So right now the Houston Texans, they're the 8th seed in the AFC, and the NFL only takes 7 teams to the playoffs per conference. So if the season ended today, the Houston Texans would be out. The good news is the Houston Texans more or less control their destiny. I know they technically don't 100% control it, but if they win out, they're probably going to make the playoffs. There's not going to really be a scenario where the Houston Texans go 11-6 and miss out on the NFL playoffs. And I believe the Houston Texans can make the NFL playoffs by winning out because I'm looking at their schedule right now. Yes, they have a tough opponent against the Cleveland Browns, and I understand CJ Stroud is going to continue to be out for the Houston Texans, but it's not going to matter because Case Keenum is a solid veteran, and he is a winner when he plays at the quarterback position. When Case Keenum plays, his teams win games more often than not. Case Keenum is a gamer. Case Keenum is a baller. I'm not saying Case Keenum is starting material, but Case Keenum is a solid backup. Case Keenum could probably start for a handful of teams, and that team would probably be competitive. Case Keenum is a solid veteran that knows what he's doing. It's not like Case Keenum plays the game blindfoldingly. If he played for the Atlanta Falcons, they probably would have won the NFC South division. Case Keenum is a solid quarterback. If he was drafted by his original team, he probably would be a starting quarterback in the NFL. But the fact of the matter is, he isn't, and Case Keenum is still a solid quarterback for the Texans. He's going to get the job done for the Houston Texans, even without Will Anderson, even without Nico Collins, even without Dell. And that's going to happen because they got the running game to rely on. Devin Singletary has been one of the most surprising breakout players in the National Football League. Devin Singletary has been able to run the football pretty effectively, and the Houston Texans, despite all of their injuries, have remained competitive in a lot of their games. Yes, they lost to the Carolina Panthers, and they got blown out to the New York Jets. But like I said, outside of those 2 losses, they've played really good football. The only reason why the Houston Texans are 8-6 is because of the fact that they had to play the Ravens in week 1. Obviously, we know that the Ravens make any rookie quarterback look ordinary. And then they played against the Colts. Obviously, that wasn't a good loss for them to have, but they get to play them in week 18. Maybe they can avenge their loss. And then they lost to the Atlanta Falcons on a game-winning kick. They lost to the Carolina Panthers on a game-winning kick. They lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars because their kicker, the Houston Texans kicker that is, couldn't nail down a field goal to end the game. And then they got blown out to the New York Jets. defense. But when you've looked at the Houston Texans this year, this is a good football team. They can run the football, they can throw it, they can block surprisingly well, despite the fact that they have 4 offensive linemen on injured reserve, and their defense has actually been solid, even though Will Anderson has missed time due to injury because of the emergence of Derek Stingley Jr. Obviously, you look at the Houston Texans defense and you're thinking, wow, that defense actually has dogs, and DeMeco Ryans deserves a ton of credit for turning around the defense of the Houston Texans, because the Houston Texans defense has been awful for several years, and for the Houston Texans defense to actually look competent, congrats to them. And DeMeco Ryans, like I said, great leader, great defensive-minded coach, and he even brought in a really good offensive-minded coach in Bobby Slowick. Bobby Slowick is the offensive coordinator of the Houston Texans, and he has played a huge role in turning around the offense of the Houston Texans. You look at how Devin Singletary, he's having a career year. You look at the fact that Tank Dell was having a really good year before he injured his leg. You look at the fact that Nico Collins, before he got hurt, was having his best season of his career. That didn't happen by accident. Sure, CJ Stroud is elevating those guys a lot, but who else is elevating those guys? The offensive coordinator of the Houston Texans. That guy needs to be a head coach in the National Football League, because this guy knows how to get the most out of his squad offensively, and most importantly, he's from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. Any coach that comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree is usually a good coach to have, particularly if they are on the offensive side of the ball. Just look at Mike McDaniel as an example of that. Don't worry about qualifications. Look at who they're connected with when it comes to Kyle Shanahan, because more often than not, they turn out to be pretty good head coaches in the National Football League. When you look at Bobby Slowick, there's a lot to rave about. And for DeMeco Ryans, I want to rave about this guy again. Great leader, great defensive-minded coach, and for a league that emphasizes offensive coaching, for DeMeco Ryans to succeed in 2023 as a defensive first-minded head coach, congrats to him, because he managed to find a way to be successful despite being a defensive-minded coach. You look at how these defensive-minded coaches are being phased out of the NFL, but DeMeco Ryans has found a way to remain relevant, and not only remain relevant, he has put himself in the conversation for Coach of the Year. So as far as whether DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans are actually good, absolutely. Don't get fooled by their record. They are better than 8-6. They should have a record that is better than 8-6, but that is not the case because of injuries and the fact that they lost some games based on special teams. If the Houston Texans literally have 3 kicks that went their way, they would be 11-3 right now. That's how good the Houston Texans have been playing. There's obviously no crime in losing to the Baltimore Ravens in week 1. Obviously, the only bad losses where the Houston Texans had were against the Carolina Panthers and the New York Jets. But even the Panthers game, that came to a kick. The only reason why the Houston Texans lost that game was because their offensive line was absolutely horrible against the Carolina Panthers. As a Panthers fan, I watched the entire game and I saw CJ Stroud running for his life. Obviously, you look at what the Houston Texans have done. The culture is there. The organization has improved. I'm not going to say that their ownership is good because that would be a lie, but at least ownership has gotten out of the way in terms of managing their team. They're actually letting coaches coach and letting their GM actually build the team. And you look at how the Houston Texans have quietly built themselves a pretty nice offense while their defense has been getting better and better. I'm looking at the Texans' last 3 games. They play the Browns week 16, they play the Titans week 17, and then they get to play the Colts in week 18. 2 of those 3 games are going to be at home. If you want to be a playoff team, Houston, you got to beat the Browns, because the Browns don't even have their starting quarterback available for them. Deshaun Watson is out for the season. They already had to cut PJ Walker, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson suffered a concussion. Now he's been benched. They're starting a guy that was sitting on the couch just a month ago in Joe Flacco. I understand Joe Flacco has been a fantastic story for the Cleveland Browns. I've been really impressed with him. I don't expect Joe Flacco to sustain this kind of play, though. I don't think it's realistic to expect a guy that is coming off the couch to continue playing good football like this. I expect Joe Flacco to start turning over the football sooner rather than later. And with the game being in Houston, I think the Houston Texans could steal that game from the Cleveland Browns. Don't be surprised if the Houston Texans beat the Cleveland Browns, even with Case Keenum starting at the quarterback position, because CJ Stroud is still in concussion protocol, which sets up a week 17 showdown against the Titans. CJ Stroud is supposed to be back by then. I expect CJ Stroud to make some plays happen. They're going to beat the Titans, and then that's going to set up the week 18 showdown against the Indianapolis Colts. The winner of that game is probably going to go to the playoffs. Matter of fact, whoever wins that game is probably going to win the division, although let's see what happens with Jacksonville, because Jacksonville's supposed to be a good football team, even though they're on a 3-game losing streak, and Trevor Lawrence is in concussion protocol, so who knows what's going to happen with the Jaguars. But as far as I'm concerned, the Houston Texans right now are in the driver's seat to win the AFC South division. They have to take care of the games that are ahead of them. They have to win out, and I think they can do that, because I think they can beat the Browns, they can beat the Titans, and then I think they're going to get the revenge on the Colts in week 18, because CJ Stroud is a better quarterback than Gardner Minshew. Although Gardner Minshew has played good football, trust me, he's not better than CJ Stroud on his best day. And week 18 football is all about setting up yourself for playoff football, and I trust CJ Stroud in playoff football more than I trust Gardner Minshew in playoff football. I see the Houston Texans making the NFL playoffs, and you got to give DeMeco Ryans a lot of credit for the turnaround of the Houston Texans. He has actually turned the Houston Texans into a good football team, and the sky is the limit for them. I don't expect this to be the ceiling of the Houston Texans. This is going to be the start of the rise for the Houston Texans. They're going to continue being a good football team year in and year out, so that's why I am very confident in the Texans making the NFL playoffs this season, as their turnaround has been very impressive to watch. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @Dustin Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @Dustin Tran and at Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel Sports Guy Talking.